My name is Daniel Hart. I'm 42 years old, and for most of my adult life I believed I understood what stability looked like. I grew up in Cleveland, worked my way through college, built a modest career in logistics consulting, bought a townhouse that always smelled faintly of old wood and morning coffee. Everything in my life felt predictable in the safest possible way. Until I met Emma. She was 31 when we crossed paths at a conference in Chicago. I remember the exact moment her hair pinned loosely, a navy blazer, a nervous laugh when she bumped into a table carrying two coffees. One of them landed on my shirt. She apologized 3 times and then bought me a new one. That tiny, clumsy collision somehow rearranged the entire architecture of my life. For a long time, it felt like the universe had finally stopped pushing against me. Emma was light, quick, witty, sharp in ways that surprised me. We fit together with unnerving ease. We moved, and after 8 months, we traveled, we argued, we made up, we spent Sundays half asleep watching old detective shows with mismatched blankets. She was the one thing in my life that felt unquestionably right, which is why I didn't see the fracture forming even when it was already spreading beneath. Everything we'd built. It started with her new job, an internal promotion at her company, a marketing firm downtown, more responsibilities, longer hours, late meetings that bled into later drinks. I didn't question it. I trusted her. She had earned that trust 100 times over, or so I thought. There were signs, of course. There always are. The two quick smiles when she read messages, the way she angled her phone screen just slightly away from me, the sudden insistence that her coworker Ethan is just intense about deadlines, the new perfume she started wearing, even the way she hugged me changed, tighter, but shorter, as if holding me too long would let something slip. I kept telling myself not to be paranoid. People in stable relationships don't spiral over nothing. People who trust don't start building theories in their heads. But trust only works when both sides are holding it. Everything collapsed the night I picked her up from work because her car battery died. She didn't expect me to arrive early. She didn't expect me to see her standing across the street with him, a tall, corporate-looking guy with a perfect haircut and the kind of posture men develop when they've never been told no in their lives. He wasn't touching her. Not yet. But there was something in the way he leaned in close. Something in the way she lowered her head and smiled, tender, nervous, familiar, that made my entire stomach drop as if I were falling through myself. When she saw me, she startled. When he saw me, he smirked, but I didn't confront them. Not there. Not like that. Instead, I drove home with her sitting stiff beside me, her hands clasped too tightly in her lap, her excuses shaking themselves into existence before she even opened her mouth. I swear, Daniel, it's just a stressful week. You're reading into something that's not there. Please don't make this into a fight. I didn't say much. I didn't trust myself to speak, because deep down, where the truth hides even from us, I already knew. I didn't sleep that night. While she turned quietly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, listening to the slow closing of the door I once thought would never shut up. The next day, I did something I never imagined I would. I went through her texts. I didn't do it out of jealousy. I did it out of survival. The messages were careful coded, sometimes playful, other times increasingly bold. The kind of boldness people only use when they believe they're safe, when they believe they're not going to get caught. There was no ambiguity. No maybe this is innocent. No space for denial. She wasn't slipping away from me. She had already left. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, the phone cold in my hand, my heartbeat numb and distant. I didn't cry. I didn't breathe for a long time. It felt like being buried alive inside my own home. And then something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to collapse. I was going to end it, not with violence, not with chaos, but with precision. Because trust is a fragile currency, and betrayal always has a cost. I didn't know yet exactly how I would break them, but I knew I would, and I knew I wouldn't miss. The morning after I found the messages, the world looked wrong. Not dramatically wrong, not like the sky had cracked or the street outside had changed shape, but wrong in a quieter way. The kind you only notice when something inside you has already shifted beyond repair. My home felt borrowed. The walls seemed thinner. Even Emma's laughter in the kitchen, forced and bright as she talked to someone on the phone, sounded like an actor rehearsing lines for a part she was tired of playing. She didn't know I knew. Not yet. That ignorance was my only advantage, and I wasn't going to waste it. I went through the morning motions. Coffee, shower, a half-hearted conversation about her long day ahead. She kissed my cheek before leaving, the kind of quick, domestic gesture strangers might find sweet, but her lips felt colder than truth. When the door shut behind her, I finally let the mask slip. I sat on the couch for a long moment, hands clasped, elbows on my knees, staring at the carpet like it could offer some sort of answer. My heartbeat wasn't racing. If anything, I was disturbingly calm. It was the kind of calm you feel after a disaster's already happened, when the panic has burned off and left only clarity behind. I opened her messages again, not out of self-torture, not anymore. I studied them the way an analyst studies a pattern, the way a surgeon evaluates a tumor's boundaries. The guy's name was Ethan Cooper. He worked at her firm, single, ambitious, from the way he typed, probably arrogant, the kind of man who saw relationships as games, emotions as resources, and consequences as rumors that happened to other people. In one of the texts he wrote, "We'll work out the details later. She won't suspect anything." She, meaning me. He thought I was clueless. He thought Emma was his, not temporarily but inevitably. That assumption irritated me more than the betrayal itself. Overconfidence is the easiest weakness to weaponize. I didn't want to just confront them. Confrontation gives people a chance to rewrite the story, to deny, to twist, to cry, to pretend you're overreacting. I wasn't interested in emotional features. I wasn't going to be one more scene in their little private drama. No, I wanted consequences. Measured, precise, undeniable consequences. But to strike accurately, I had to understand the battlefield. So I started gathering information. The first step was simple. I called off work, claiming a migraine. Then I logged into the shared laptop we used for bills and streaming movies. The one she forgot was still synced with her work calendar. Her schedule lit up the screen. Meetings, client calls, presentations. And then I saw it, internal strategy planning for 30 p.m., a 2-hour block. Not unusual on paper, but paired with the messages I'd seen, it wasn't a meeting. It was a cover. I bookmarked it. Next, I searched Ethan. LinkedIn gave me the basics. 37. Polished career path, multiple promotions. The kind of corporate posturing that makes mediocrity look like excellence. A man who thrived on image. That was helpful. People obsessed with image crumble fastest. His social media showed something else. He wasn't discreet. Posts about his new watch, his gym progress, his networking dinners. He lived online as if attention was oxygen. People like him didn't expect consequences because they assumed they were too smart, too careful, too admired. It would be easy to take something from him. Maybe his job, maybe his public reputation, maybe something far more personal. But I wasn't ready to choose the method yet. For the rest of the morning, I paced. I made coffee. I didn't drink. I tried to read emails, then closed the laptop. My mind kept circling the same question. Why? Why betray someone who had done nothing but trust? Why throw away stability for temporary excitement? Why risk destroying a life that had room for you? The horrible thing is that I already knew the answer. Because cheating isn't about what you lack. It's about what the other person thinks they can get away with. Around noon, I went into our bedroom. Her scarf was still draped over the chair. A coffee cup from yesterday sat on the nightstand. The bed was still unmade, the sheets tangled from her restless movements during the night. I sat on the edge again, the same place where I had discovered the truth. There are two ways to respond to betrayal. You either break, or you reshape. I wasn't going to break dot by early afternoon. I had a full plan forming, not complete yet, but gaining structure. And the first step of that plan was simple. I needed proof. Perfect, undeniable proof. Not screenshots. Not assumptions. Something that neither of them could talk their way out of. I checked the time, 3:10 p.m., if they really were meeting at 4:30. I had just enough time to position myself. 15 minutes later, I was in my car, driving toward her office building. The sky was overcast, the kind of heavy gray that feels like the world is holding its breath. My fingers drummed the steering wheel as I circled the block. Planning angles, timing, visibility. At 4:22 p.m. I parked where I had a clear line of sight to the entrance, but wouldn't be noticed. At 4:29. She appeared. Emma stepped out of the building with her phone pressed to her ear, scanning the street. She wasn't looking for me. She was looking for him. And sure enough, he showed up seconds later. The two of them walked side by side, too close to be innocent, not touching but charged with something unmistakable: recognition, anticipation, guilt. He said something that made her laugh quietly. Then she looked up at him in a way that squeezed something inside my chest. I lifted my phone, clicked the camera, captured everything, not for revenge yet, but for truth. They turned the corner together, heading toward his car, and I let them disappear. I didn't follow. Not that day. Following would have been too obvious. I had what I needed, and somewhere deep inside me, where the betrayal still burned and new clarity settled, I wasn't going to just end things. I was going to rewrite the ending entirely, not with anger, not with chaos, but with a precision they never saw coming. Night fell over the city faster than it should have. The streetlights hadn't even turned on yet, but the streets were already drowning in a heavy, cold darkness. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Max walked across the central square, his hand clenched around the small metal object he and Alina had found in the underground chamber. He still had no idea what it was: a key, a fragment of some mechanism, or a piece of something far more complicated. But whatever it was, it carried a strange, faint vibration, like it was alive. If this really has something to do with what happened in the lab, he muttered to himself, then we're already in deep trouble. He lifted his head and froze. Above the rooftops, a dark shape was hanging in the sky. At first he thought it was just a cloud, but then the shape shifted, almost like it was adjusting itself, and drifted slowly along the street, not dissolving into the night sky. It looked almost intentional, almost aware. A cold shiver crawled down his spine. His phone rang. "You see that?" Alina's voice trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. "I see it," Max answered, keeping his voice low. And, for several seconds, neither Max nor Alina said anything. The dark shape hovering above the rooftops moved again, slower this time, as if it were trying not to draw attention. But it already had theirs, completely. "Max, it's following the street we were on earlier," Alina finally whispered. "Yeah, I noticed." He didn't want to admit it, but the thing's movements did look deliberate, like it was searching. And the closer it drifted, the stronger the vibration in the metal fragment became. He could feel the pulses echoing through his palm, soft, rhythmic, almost matching the beat of his own heartbeat. Max forced himself to breathe steadily. "Where are you right now?" he asked. "Close to the lab." "I didn't want to go inside without you." "Good, stay there. Don't move until I get to you." He started walking faster, then decided walking wasn't enough. He broke into a run. The city felt different now. The usual noises were somehow muffled, like someone had wrapped the world in thick fabric. A dog barked somewhere in the distance, but even that sounded too quiet, too far away. And then the streetlights flickered, first one, then three in a row. Then the entire block behind him went dark. Max stopped. The vibration in the metal fragment grew sharper, stronger, as if reacting to the blackout. Not good. Not good at all. He breathed. A low hum rolled through the street, so quiet he almost didn't hear it. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't electrical. It sounded biological. like something enormous clearing its throat in the dark. A voice broke through the silence. Alina's panicked. Max, it's moving toward the lab. Hurry. I'm coming, he said, and sprinted again. He turned the corner and froze. Something was standing near the alley leading toward the lab building. Not the floating shape. This thing was on the ground, tall, human-shaped, but wrong in ways he couldn't describe. Its silhouette twitched faintly, the edges of its body distorting, as if the darkness itself didn't know how to wrap around it properly. Max took a step back, heart pounding. The figure tilted its head slowly, almost curiously, as if it sensed him. And then, as if reacting to the fragment in his hand, the figure stiffened. Every part of its form tightened, sharpened, focused directly on him. Oh hell. The creature, or whatever it was, took a single, silent step toward him. Max turned and ran. Max didn't look back. He could hear nothing behind him. No footsteps, no breath, no movement. And somehow that was worse. The silence felt too intentional, like the thing in the alley was letting him run. For now, the lab building finally came into view at the end of the street. Its lights were still on inside, bright against the darkened block. Max sprinted up the steps, pushed through the front door, and slammed it shut behind him. Alina stood on the far end of the hall, clutching a folder of documents to her chest. Max. Finally, he leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. There's something out there, he said, voice shaking more than he wanted. Not the one in the sky. Another one. On the ground. Alina's expression tightened. She walked closer, lowering her voice. I know. I saw it too. Or, she hesitated. I saw something like it last night. What? She opened the folder in her hands and pulled out a single printed image. A distorted figure caught on one of the lab's exterior cameras a few days earlier. The shape was stretched, humanoid, off balance. But the worst part wasn't its form. It was the faint glow in its chest, the same color as the fragment he was holding. Max looked at the metal piece again. It pulsed in his hand, almost anxious. What is this thing, Alina? She swallowed. It's not metal, Max. Or at least, not from here. It came from the object we were tracking. The same one that keeps returning to the city every night. The one in the sky? She nodded. We thought the small fragments were just debris, but it turns out they're connected, like a hive, a network. Something heavy dropped in his stomach, and they're reacting to me. Why? Alina hesitated longer this time. Because the fragment bonded with you the first moment you touched it. Max stared at her. You knew. I suspected. The scan showed resonance, biological resonance. So what does that mean? That I'm some sort of a loud metallic clang cut him off. Something hitting the side of the building. Both of them froze. Another clang closer. Then a scraping sound, long and slow, running across the exterior wall as if a giant hand were dragging its fingers along the metal surface. The lights flickered. Alina grabbed Max's wrist. We need to go. Now. They rushed deeper into the building, toward the emergency stairwell. The metal fragment throbbed violently in Max's palm, almost burning. As they reached the stairs, he risked a glance back and saw the hallway lights at the far end flicker again, then die completely. Darkness swallowed the corridor, and in that blackness, the shape moved. No footsteps, no breathing, just a ripple of shadow that slid across the floor like liquid. Alina yanked the stairwell door open. Behind them, the shadow figure stepped into the faint light leaking through the window. Its body shimmered unnaturally, as if its form wasn't solid but adjusting, adapting. Max and Alina ran down the stairs. The building trembled once, then twice, followed by a deep, distant rumble. Max knew what it was without looking. The one in the sky. It had found them. They burst out the back exit into the cold night air. The sky above rippled faintly, like a dark veil being lifted. The massive airborne shape descended slowly, silently, its edges glowing with the same shifting patterns as the fragment in Max's hand. Alina grabbed him by the shoulders. Max, listen to me. They're not coming to kill you. His breath hitched. They're coming to retrieve you. The ground shook. The air vibrated. The figure in the sky lowered even more. And the fragment in Max's hand, for the first time, stopped pulsing. Not dead. Waiting.